What's up, my beautiful people? So, as the title says, this is going to be answering your comments. It's going to be pretty informal, but first, I'd like to thank everybody that comments on my videos. I actually read all the comments, and I'm trying to get back to as many as I can, but this is where I get ideas for new content. I've got a list of videos that I need to make that are all really good content that I really want to put out, but, I have to pick what I need to put out at the time. So, anyway, let's get right into your questions. Okay, question number 1 is from Jerry Lowenstein. He says, Bluewater BS. You need to research how many more production boats cross oceans more than these antiques. Why is that? I think it would be very difficult to say that is a fact. If it is, I'm pretty sure it's just a numbers thing. But I will tell you what is a fact. People that choose this type of boat usually choose the milk run, and they choose the very easy downwind part of a circumnavigation. I will also tell you another fact. When the unexpected hits you, like a rogue wave or a low that's blowing 60 inside it, or a huge front is coming your way and you can see it coming, you're going to be glad you listened to me and you're on a boat that's made for that sea state. Number 2, also from Jerry Lowenstein. My Beneteau carries 220 gallons of fuel, 320 gallons of water. I do 12 knots with 18 knots of wind. Why do I want these old boats? Mr. Jerry, now I understand the first question. And this brings up a very, very good point. Don't listen to owners of the boats you're looking at getting. This is true advice, I promise you. Even with me, do not listen to my advice on buying an Oyster 485. I own one. I'm biased. There's 2 psychological effects that are happening right there. One is called the endowment effect. That's when we tend to overvalue the things that we own. And number 2 is confirmation bias. That's where, as human beings, we naturally seek out confirmation and ideas and information that supports our decision and ignore what doesn't. So to answer your question, your Beneteau holds a whole bunch of fuel and a whole bunch of water. That's not really, tankage isn't really what makes a blue water cruiser. It's how the keel is attached, how thick the hull is, how many watertight bulkheads it has. If you're going to high latitudes like expedition sailing, then you're going to need tankage that's huge. But normally 99.999% of people, they're going to be in the trades. Okay, question number 3 is from MTSVCC, and it is, regarding the Norseman 447, the one you showcased is precisely the one currently for sale for $169,000. Does that mean you consider this overly priced and only worth $125K? That's a great question. To answer your question, no, I don't think that specific boat is only worth $125. I'm just looking at boats that are more expensive. I'm just trying to get a good value of where the market is right now and what boats are worth. And, it may not be worth that. It may be a screaming deal at $169, but you don't know until you kind of do some research. All right, question number 4 comes from Rob-R2S. James, this boat checks almost all of your boxes. What boats check all of your boxes and why? What a fantastic question. This is the reason I'm doing this video, because this answer is a lot more detailed than YouTube gives me space for, really. So here's a piece of advice that I want you to remember. If a boat checks all of your boxes, you don't have enough boxes. There is no boat in the world that checks all of my boxes, but what I can do is I can tell you what things I'm willing to compromise on and what things I am not willing to compromise on, and you should have the same list. So my non-negotiables, I have to have a keel-stepped mast. I do not want a deck-stepped mast. I've seen too many boats dismasted, and that's a no-go for me. I need a skeg-hung rudder, and whether that's a half a skeg or a full skeg, that may be something that you're willing to deal with or not. I want a fin keel. I like the performance advantages of having a fin keel. And that said, I want a long keel. I don't like shallow draft boats. I want the performance advantages of having a deep draft. And yes, I'm well aware that I'm going to have to anchor out and I can't get into some places, and I'm going to have to, skip some anchorages. I will not have hydraulic steering. Not again. It's failed on me too many times. I don't want a centerboard on a fiberglass boat. On a metal boat, I will have that. I want the displacement to length ratio of at least 200. That's minimum. I'd like good ventilation and light and a cutter rig. I want a cutter. I like the versatility of having that staysail. So some of the compromises I'm willing to take, I don't care if it's an aft cockpit or a center cockpit. For me, the advantages and disadvantages there kind of equal each other out. The boat's length, I really like anything between 42 and say, I prefer 46, but anything under 56 I think is probably manageable. As soon as you get over 56, then you get into this exponentially more expensive and harder to handle and harder to maintain and harder to just have a boat that's that big. The hull material, I'm willing to entertain fiberglass or aluminum. Tankage, I don't really mind because I'm not doing anything in Antarctica. The interior layout, I am very open on different kind of layouts as long as it's comfortable and it's safe and there's no huge open spaces. The energy systems, I can put on my own solar, I can put on my own wind, I can have that, I can take care of that myself. In my opinion, that's kind of a consumable thing. And then the deck layout, I'm very open to different styles of deck layouts. So that kind of gives you an idea of my boxes. That's only a taste, but I don't have time to go through all of them. If you'd really like to know all of my check boxes, I will put that in another video. Question number 5 comes from SVC Ductress. James, how much would a delivery captain cost to bring purchased boat from the Med to the cheapest place across the Atlantic, the US or Caribbean? Well, I can tell you right now it's going to be the Caribbean because it's a lot closer. Captains usually charge by the mile or they charge by the day. And then they charge for lay days, and that doesn't include flights. So you're going to need to pay their flights there and back, and then you're going to need to pay either their day rate or their mileage rate. I tend to do mileage just because it's a lot easier to figure out, and then we do a day rate on lay days. Lay days being, like, say the autopilot breaks halfway and we have to stop in Cape Verde and get a new autopilot. You need to pay me for my time to sit there with your boat and fix it. Or something like that. Or it takes a lot longer to get the boat ready to go, which is more common. So you go to a boat and the owner says, yeah, it's ready to cross the ocean right now. And you go there and the halyards are all chafed up and the sails are bad and the steering is leaking. You know, you got to fix all that stuff before you go out to sea. Okay? So in that case, you would pay me $500 a day for the lay days and $3 a mile. Some skippers do it differently, but that's about what you'll find in the industry. And if you want a good skipper, that's what you'll pay. If you want a skipper that doesn't have a lot of experience, then you can probably find one for cheaper. Okay, so there's a really easy way to do this. You can go to Blue Sea Distance Calculator, and then you type a location in English where you want to start. So we're going to start from Gibraltar, and then we're going to add a stop in Canaries, Gran Canaria, Spain, and then we're going to go to St. Martin. So this is the shortest distance you can sail between the Med and the Caribbean. This is where the trade winds take you. This is the cruising route. You got to go down to the Canaries and maybe even Cape Verde, and then over to St. Martin or Martinique or wherever you want to land there. And then if you want to go farther, if you want to say you want to go to the Chesapeake, you would go from there to Bahamas and then ride the Gulf Stream up. So then you would go to, let's say, Exuma's, and then Exuma's Boatyard, and then Chesapeake, let's say Annapolis, Maryland. There we go. So the first one was 3,400 miles. That's about a $10,000 delivery plus flights. And this one is 5,000 miles, which would be a $15,000 delivery plus flights. So it'll end up costing you about 20 grand to get it from the Med to the States. Now from the States to the Med is less, because then you can do the upper trade route at like 38 degrees. And then it's only going to be like 3,000 miles, which would be $10,000. But it is not a cheap option to buy a boat in the Med and then send it back over to you in the States, okay? Just make sure if you're looking for a boat, I'm guessing you're looking for boats over there, and you're going to pay a delivery captain, you factor in that 20 grand. Can be more too. Some delivery captains charge 25 for that trip. Okay, number 6 comes to us from David Worms. He says, add 20 to 25% to any budget. You can find better, but that comes out of the travel budget. So $200K budget allows for repairs and upgrades. That there will be. So spend a bit less. After works, you hit budget. Laugh out loud. How many years cruising can you do with 50K? None of yours or anybody's have not work required from purchase. I'm guessing that you've translated this from another language. You know, I don't talk about the maintenance a lot on the videos that I'm talking about buying boats because, yes, that's a given. And I would actually venture to say it's more like 30%, 35% the first year that you own the boat. Depends on who you buy it from. There's different kinds of boat owners, okay? When you're looking for a boat, there's the boat owner that only uses his boat on 4th of July and Memorial Day weekend, and he's only gonna replace light bulbs in the boat. He's not gonna do any super big upgrade projects. He's probably not gonna go through a refit on the whole time he's gonna own the boat. And then there's the type of person that really, really loves his boat, and you know, whatever he does, he makes it stronger, he makes it better as the technology changes. He's getting LED lights and the LED light at the top of his mast, and he's, you know, constantly upgrading. And that's kind of the person you want to buy from. But if you buy just a stock boat that's not been upgraded, then you're going to probably spend about 35% on the first year. And then it'll drop down 10, 15% on the subsequent years on your boat, okay? That's kind of how it works with boat ownership. It's to set it up your way. If you're going to cruise on it, it's very expensive. So make sure you have enough in your kitty that you're not blowing it all on the boat, which should be like, this is something that you should know. You know, you're not just going to buy a boat and not spend any money on it. This is all boats are money. Sorry, but I get this question a lot. Yes, maintenance on boats is very expensive. Okay, question number 7 comes to us from Spicoli9797. Seems like you never, ever talk about draft. What is the draft on this boat? I think that the draft on that boat that he's referring to, which was the Naiad 441, is something like 6.6. That would be like 2 meters, right? Somewhere around there. And yeah, that's a pretty deep draft, and that's kind of the draft that I want. So we kind of covered this in the 4th question, but my view on draft is that I want something that has a deep draft. I like having that deep draft because I'm an offshore sailor. The more offshore miles you do, the more you're going to want a nice big keel to help you point and to help you get there faster and to take some of that motion away from the waves punching you and to make the boat more comfortable. And that's what the keel does. That's the whole job of the keel. And I also think stubby boats just look funny. To me, I mean, this is, again, use case. Numero 8, at Lady from Nukuhiva. What a great name. Hello, Lady from Nukuhiva. I've been to Nukuhiva. I love it. Can you find one for me for $35,000? I'm guessing you mean US dollars? Let's try. Okay, I'm going to start by putting in my link. That is the special link I have on YachtWorld. I'm gonna delete the price, and this is all the makes that I really like that I think are blue water boats. I'm gonna delete the length as well. I'm gonna put any length, and we're gonna put the price as 20 to 36, like 45K. Okay. Now it's gonna be a little more difficult for you to find a boat at 35K on YachtWorld because not every boat is on YachtWorld. Did you see that? Did you catch it? I did $20 to $40 and then did the whole thing like, oh, we didn't have anything on this. Let's look other places. Man, where is my mind? Okay, so we're going to do this in one take very quickly. I have a link that I've already selected all the blue water boats that I think are blue water boats. You can go through and you can select the different makes. So that link is available in the description, by the way. So we're going to go up to this. We're going to paste that link in. As soon as it comes up, I see 1,717 boats. Now we're going to put the price, 20,000 to 45,000. Go. Now there's 223 boats in the whole world that you're looking at. So, Lady from Nukuhiva, I'm guessing you're from Nukuhiva. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to put location by country, French Polynesia, and see what comes up. 2 boats. The Kelly Peterson 44, that's an awesome boat. There you go. Perfect. That's enough. We're done. The CNC Landfall 42 is actually a great boat too, but that Kelly Peterson, awesome boat, 40 grand. There you go. Buy that boat. If you want to look at other boats real quick, we can ixnay French Polynesia and just put country, United States, and then we're going to put region west. So now you can buy that boat, you can sail across the Pacific. There's 25 boats to choose from. The Trip 47, that's going to be a race boat. Cape Dory 33 is a good boat. Contessa 32, that's the boat that John Kretschmer took around Cape Horn. Awesome boat. Cal 239, great boat. Hans Christian 33, great boat. Pacific Seacraft Orion. I don't know much about the Orion, but I do know that the Pacific Seacraft name is a great boat. Vaquier Praetorian. The Vaquiers are good boats. Pearsons are good. Dude, there's so many boats. So a Cal 40, that's an awesome boat. Anyway, you get the picture, right? Go down in the description, copy that link, put it on your computer, and then when you're looking for boats, that'll kind of filter out all of the non-blue water boats. Okay, number 9 comes to us from Kurt Prastka. Thank you for another great video. Can you give your opinions on deck step masts on this make other than blue water makes such as HR? If you had to compare your Oyster 485 to an HR 48 of similar age and price, how would you approach the mast design, for example? Well, I wouldn't take a deck step mast. So any of those boats that have deck step masts, I personally don't want that. That's a personal choice, but I would say if you're going to go farther than 300 or 400, 1,000 miles from land, if you have any plans on crossing an ocean, having a deck step mast for me is a no-go. I don't know if Haliburton have deck step masts. The ones that I've seen that are comparable to the Oyster don't. They have keel-stepped. And, you know, if I had to compare, I have before. I've been parked right next to a Haliburton 46, which is the same thing as a Oyster 485. I like those boats. They're super pretty. The joinery is really nice. I'd say the joinery maybe even nicer than the Oyster. I would say the decks are wider, so the interior volume is less, which isn't a bad thing. It means that you're not going to fly around as much. You don't have as far to go. The decks are easier to navigate, and the Oyster has a full glass hull. So the Haliburton has a quart hull and above the waterline. So, you know, if I get hit by a tree or a boat or something, it's just going to bounce off most of the time. If a Haliburton gets hit, it could go right through. My boat's heavier. It's going to take a little more wind to sail. So the Haliburton is going to be a little bit more sporty in lighter airs. All these things are compromises that you need to research, understand, and then make a decision on, as with any boat. Okay, number 10 comes to us from Potomac Aerial and Marine. He says, great video, James. What type of stern designs do you prefer for a blue water cruiser? A canoe stern such as the Pacific Seacraft 37 or a relatively wide stern like the Passport 40? Thank you. So that's a great question. And really, it's all aesthetic. I really like the canoe sterns. I think they're super pretty. I think the Valiant 42 and the Hans Christians and the Pacific Seacrafts are such good boats that the stern doesn't defer me from buying that boat. What it does do is it limits the amount of space that you'll have to put stuff. So on the Passport 40, you'll have a lot more room because it has a wine glass stern and a flat stern section back there. So you have more lazarette space. So, I mean, whether that's a deal killer for you, obviously it's better to have a little bit more space, but the aesthetic for having a canoe stern is really nice. I really do like that style. Just so you guys know, that idea that it splits the waves in following seas so you don't get pooped as much was debunked. And now it's just the look that you're going for. Or you can have the third version is a sugar scoop transom. So if you have a sugar scoop transom, you're able to access the water on and off a lot more. But if you get a wind vane on a transom like that, it kind of ruins the whole transom. So you're more likely to put a wind vane on a double-ender transom or a flat transom like the Passport. If that's something that you'd like to do, then choosing a sugar scoop transom for that reason maybe is not the best idea, because you want to have the free wind-powered autopilot that comes with having a wind vane. And yes, you can get a hydro vane that offsets and still have a sugar scoop transom, but the hydro vane does get in the way a lot, so just keep that in mind. Okay, number 11, 12, and 13 are all boats. Number 11 comes from Greg Bowler. Do you recommend a Kanter Atlantic 45? I absolutely love Kanters. They are Canadian-built powerhouses of a boat. They do have a use case, so they're aluminum boats and they have a lot of insulation on them, so they're made for colder climates. And like any boat, maintenance matters. So you're going to have to find one that wasn't deferred and deferred and deferred. I've seen both. I've seen Kanters be really, really pretty, and I've also seen Kanters be very, very ugly. There's another boat that was built by the designer of Kanter, and it's called like an Einhorn or an Isinglass. It's not Isinglass, but it's his last name, and those are beautiful too. So you might want to expand into that. It's a very niche boat. I can't remember the name, but maybe somebody can comment and give me that name. I saw one for sale and it was super pretty, and I was very interested in buying it, but they're a little bit higher end boats. You know, they're very thick aluminum, nicely built, expedition style, or at least cold climate boats. Okay, number 12. This one comes from Metal Auditor. What do you think about the Island Packet 350? They seem to be going for 125 to 135K right now. Well, Island Packets are funny because there's a group that loves Island Packets, and then there's a group that kind of not really loves Island Packets, knows they're very good boats, they're built very well, but not in, like the die-hard, gonna always have an Island Packet category. So you really need to get on them. You need to go sailing on them. You need to see if it fits you, and if it does, you might be in this category where they are just die-hard fans. They're built very well. They have a lot of headroom. They are still in business, so you can still get, like, say you want countertops for them, you can just call the factory and say, hey, we need new countertops in a different color, and they'll make them for you and glue on all the fills that you want and customize it and stuff, and they'll send them to you wherever you're at in the world. That's huge. But they have a couple of downsides, in my opinion, and one of them is they have a full keel. Now, having a full keel is not a bad thing per se. It's just my opinion, and I just prefer to have something that sails really well. So this boat will be affected by the full keel. It won't maneuver as well in the marina, and it won't point as high, but it'll be a lot stronger. You don't have to deal with keel bowls. You really don't ever have to worry about anything under the waterline on this boat. So there's a use case for this boat, and you need to decide if this use case is going to be your nominal use case, okay? There's a 420 parked right next to me right now. It's a nice boat. I've been on it many times. They're going through a huge refit. Not only is it a nice boat, but the owners had a 380 before the 420. So they're in this camp of really, really loving Island Packets, and there's a lot of brand loyalty with that group. So that says a lot. Okay, number 13 is from DTR Guy 2707. He says, just watched and enjoyed what you had to say. You mentioned a Hylas 44, but have you ever heard of or experienced a Gulfstar 44cc? Very similar to the Hylas. One online review liked the GS better than the Hylas. Okay, so the Hylas tend to build on a philosophy of a great fit out and finish, and the joinery is going to be better. But the Gulfstars would be more of a good value cruiser if they've been well maintained. In my personal opinion, I'd say that Hylas is better than Gulfstar. I just from my experience on the boats, I can say that they'll probably sail better. But that said, either one of these boats can be perfect if you make it your boat. If you buy it well and it's well founded and it's been maintained. And okay, number 14 comes to us from Mr. Yellow Jello. I think he wants that pronounced that way. You got a cool name and a cool moniker. Yeah, very, very cool, man. How about a video on weather routing and maybe one on how to set a spinnaker? I've already done a video on how to set a spinnaker. If you look up Zingaro and spinnaker, you'll see that video. But as far as weather routing, I have a masterclass on weather routing that I do every year. And I'll do another one soon. I would really like to put that in video form. It's just so much information. It would be like an hour-long video. And I don't know if you guys will actually pay attention for an hour. So, okay, number 15 comes from Greg Balthorn. He says, "Hi, I really enjoy your channel and the great insight you give." Thank you. I'm looking at a 44-foot Gib'Sea 126 built in 1985. Do you have any comments on this boat? Thank you in advance. Well, Greg, Gib'Seas are decent boats, but like any production model from the 80s, the key is the condition. You need to find one that is in that camp where it was owned by someone that really loved the boat. They're not really blue water boats, but you can make them into a blue water boat. They're not hardcore offshore boats though. So if you want something to go far, I would say try to find something else. If you do want to take that boat anywhere, what I would do is I would check the keel attachment, all of the bulkheads to make sure they haven't cracked, the tabbing hasn't cracked on them or anything, and check the rigging. Make sure it's strong enough to go offshore with. But honestly, if you really want an offshore boat, you should probably look somewhere else. Okay, number 16 comes to us from Vlon Bluesman. He says, "Great informative video. Can you please elaborate on your preference for the center cockpit, the pros and cons?" So the reason center cockpits exist is for one reason. It's to open up the aft bedroom. That's it. There are some other advantages that you can point out, like, oh, it gives great visibility, but honestly, the real reason that's there is because you don't want to have to listen to the crew all night if you're in the owner's cabin, and you can have this big expansive space. You don't have to live underneath the crew or the cockpit anyway. That's the reason. And so pick your pros and cons from that. I mean, there's other ones. You can see more, around the boat. The boat feels a little smaller when you're driving it. Though if you're single-handing it, it's better to have an aft cockpit because the cleats are right there. You can just reach over and throw lines to the guys on the dock if you're trying to dock the boat single-handed. Just think about it a little bit. But really, the one big pro is, as the owner, when you're in your bed, you don't have to have the ceiling be right here, and you don't have to listen to the crew in the cockpit, because a lot of the times they'll be doubling up and they'll be talking and they'll be being loud, and you almost never hear them when you're in a big enough boat. Okay, number 17. This comes from Daniel Morin. Is the Discovery 50 a good blue water sailboat? Very easy question with a very easy answer. Yes, they're good. They're good offshore boats. They're made for blue water. They're well regarded for their comfort and performance, and they are built for blue water. Yes. What you need to do is you need to find one, again, that's well founded from an owner that loved it. Okay, number 18 comes from Mud and Crudstrom. What about cat boats? One hull, freestanding mast. I see the draw for those. That makes it super easy to sail. They only have one sail, and it's self-tacking. So what's better than that? Well, the problem is the fulcrum where the wishbone comes up, where that attaches, like especially on non-such boats, not that great. And if you have to fix it, it's a big bolt through the mast. I've seen one guy cruising on a non-such where that fulcrum had needed to be repaired. It was just it was almost impossible to do it correctly. You needed a new extrusion. I'm not a big fan of not having rigging. I like being able to balance the sails. So I would say if you're going a far offshore, cat boats are not one of the boats that should be on your list. Number 19 is from Borjor 4055. He says, Swan or Baltic? Thanks, mate. I'm not sure if you want me to compare them or if you're saying, are either of them good? But I like both of them. I've seen Baltics cruising. I've seen Swans cruising. It depends on your budget. It depends on how the boat's found, because both of these boats can be very old. They're both kind of performance boats. You can find these things that are racing in race mode, and you can find them that are in cruise mode. So that's a big subject. But if you can find a Baltic or a Swan, they're both good boats. Okay, number 20. This is our last question. This is from Matthew Quinton. What do you think about a Cal 246 for blue water? I love that boat. I think it's a great boat. I think it's a very old boat. It's an old design. I'm pretty sure that design is very early 70s, because I know the Cal 40 was 69, so I'm guessing the Cal 246 is probably, a second iteration, mid 70s, something like that. And the design's old, so you're going to have a lot of single bunks, because back then it was kind of more of a boys' game where you'd go out and sail with all your friends. And they tend to have more single bunks, but man, they sail so well. They're so well founded. There is one for sale right now for, I think, $250,000, which I think that's a little much, but that's probably from somebody that loved their boat. So maybe you can call them and make a deal with them and figure out a price that you both agree on. Yeah, I'm a big fan. So that was it for now. I will try to do another one of these in a little while. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask, and I'll try to get to them on YouTube, or maybe even I'll answer them on a live video. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. That really helps the YouTube algorithm suggest my videos to more people. And if you'd like to see more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications to be notified when I put out more content. Much love. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next time. Cat videos coming soon. Peace and love.